So welcome to the Assessment Systems Agile Transformation webinar. I will be one of your presenters, along with a colleague of mine, Gabor, who I will introduce shortly. We hope you will find this session useful and it will help you in making your next business moves. Okay, so to give you an overview of what Assessment Systems Group is and what we do, we are an international HR consulting group with over 15 years of experience, and I may add evolution. And of course, we have a lot of satisfied corporate clients. We are talking about over 1,000. We've been growing constantly since our establishment, and that is thanks to the satisfaction of our clients, obviously. You know, like every company, we've met tons of different scenarios over the years, and each scenario has taught us a particular lesson or added value to our expertise. We have offices in quite a good number of different countries, including the Czech Republic, Germany, Hungary, Poland, Russia, Serbia, Croatia, Slovakia, Kazakhstan, and we also have representatives in Bulgaria, Romania, and Ukraine, and we also have global partners, and this is what helps us cover our clients' people-related challenges worldwide. We believe that our strength lies in being able to provide intelligent solutions through a combination of market insights, technical excellence, and outstanding knowledge of people and organizations. And we work together as one global team with over 60 consultants who bring every day their collective knowledge, experience, and global network to the table. And this is how they give their absolute best on every single project we take on. And this is why our motto is our solutions focus on the growth of people, because people drive the growth of business. So that's it about us, and now let's get down to business. As you probably all know, Agile originally comes from IT or software development, but you'll probably also know that it has emerged and been transferred to many other domains ever since. The reason why businesses usually switch from traditional organizational model to Agile model, business model, is because the single one goal of an Agile organization is to be able to react to changing market and client needs faster and more effectively while staying ahead of their competitors. So how do businesses decide to transfer into the Agile ways? Well, usually before an organization makes the decision to transform fully, it usually starts with the business kind of experimenting with a small Agile project, which usually involves one department. And they kind of get a taste of it through this experiment, and then someone within the company makes recommendations to top-level management that the business should seriously consider transforming to Agile, because due to the rapid technological developments that we all face well, today really, the number of competitors are just much higher. And even tiny one-man businesses are able to serve really serious client demands, and they can also compete this way with large organizations. And so that's why businesses usually decide to transform, usually starting with either a department or a small subsidiary as their kind of Agile guinea pig to pilot the transition. So the point here is that businesses transforming into Agile do it for proactive competitive reasons and not because they are having some sort of trouble or problems that they are facing, and so they are kind of trying to remedy these problems, but it's the opposite. It's a proactive competitive approach. So the Agile emergence as a global trend is it's pretty much driven by the discovery that the best way for organizations to cope with these turbulent customer-driven marketplace that we live in is to become Agile, because implementing the Agile methodologies enables organizations to master continuous change and to flourish in a world that is increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. These are the main highlighters of the whole Agile mindset. I would put it that way. So the risk here is that under the current circumstances, any new innovation can either win the jackpot or fail really badly for any business. And so the table turns quickly and everyone wants everything promptly in the best quality. And so that includes customers, shareholders, and employees as well. So how is the Agile organizational model? One second, I lost my control over the panel. Okay, so I think I might have jumped. Okay, so how is the Agile organizational model different from the traditional one? As you all know, the traditional organizational model, it's very authority-based, based on hierarchy. There is a lot of management involved in management of people, management of tasks, management of performance, and so on. People making mistakes are not exactly welcome, and there is a lot of mid and long-term planning. While in Agile, it's an autonomy-based structure. There are no traditional authority figures. There is total self-management. People managing their own time, their own resources, their own everything. They are kind of volunteering for tasks because it's up to them to decide whether they are able to deliver or not. And mistakes are actually being calculated with and are kind of viewed as a learning curve. So things that people can learn from. And something that is very typical of Agile is short-term planning, because projects usually run in very short so-called sprints. And this is what makes Agile organizations able to immediately respond to occurring rapid changes. As mentioned before, the reason why businesses switch from the traditional organizational model to Agile is because the single one goal of an Agile organization is to be able to react to the changing markets and the client needs faster and more effectively, and also to stay ahead of their competitors. The workforce of an Agile organization or a department is a relatively flat network of cross-functional flexible teams that are empowered to direct their own activities and make day-to-day decisions. And once this Agile organization or Agile way of working is in the house, departments like IT, sales, customer service, and so on, they can be all meshed up with each other so that people of different fields and expertise can work directly together in order to be able to react to these client needs faster and more effectively. Take my job, for instance. I have to work together directly with HR, marketing, R&D, IT, country managers, consultants, sometimes vendors on the daily, on projects that run their course fast. So in an Agile organization, for example, my job would be something like a product owner. In most places, Agile transformation means a fundamental company culture or mindset change, and that's something that needs to be dealt with firsthand. It's the mindset of the people who will probably be transferred from the traditional organizational model into this new way of working. And that's not always easy, so that might be a challenge. It usually is. And this kind of mindset cannot be achieved without the right people at every level of the organization. And that's why the success of Agile transformation always depends on the people. Okay, so here, Agile transformation makes sense when you want to eliminate silos within the company, for example, or when you want to reduce product lead time to markets, or when you want to make your business revolve around customer-centered development. And we can talk about external or internal clients as well. What's interesting is that we also find that more and more companies are now adopting Agile methodologies in kind of unusual parts of the organization. R&D, marketing, sales, operations, corporate strategy, those kind of areas. Companies in industries like broadcasting or farm equipment manufacturing or winemaking are even implementing this model. And according to the data, these experiments suggest that implementation into those areas equally high, they have an equally high success rate. So that's why Agile offers the prospect of a holistic innovation methodology that many companies can learn and put to work, and that will enable those companies to develop and implement new ideas, and not just come up with these new ideas, but actually implement them. It also means, though, that companies are required to alter their operating model and organizational structure. And this is where I would give the word to Gabor, so he can share his expertise with you.
Hello to everyone. So let's see the Agile implementation and our model or our approach towards this change, let's say so, because it's change, it's needless to say. And well, I would say that from this picture, it looks that, yeah, we have a two-factor model for organizations who would like to go agile or working on that already. And as you can see from the picture, we really believe that there is a hard part and there is a soft part. The hard part is represented here by a gear, and the soft part is represented, by a brain. Needless to say that both, factors need a lot of calibration. They have to be tailor-made. Even the, let's say so, technical part, which is reflected here with the ability. But the other part, where we're talking about competencies, the people part, also needs a lot of, investment in terms of time, for example, and in terms of, attention. Going into details, I would say it's needless to say that the ability part is a must. If you'd like to transfer the organization, your organization, into an agile organization, you have to establish the rules. You have to talk about, you have to acquire the technical knowledge. You have to restructure the organization in order to be able to work in this agile way. It means that you have to establish the new roles, the new positions, just like product owner, chapter lead, etc. Because these parts, let's say so, are needed. But these are technical parts. Again, you have to tailor-made it. You have to, sometimes alter these well-known agile positions to fit your own, company and your own products or services. But on the second part, here what we would like to, tell or give is that you have to focus on your people, because it's okay to have the certain roles and the structures and the frameworks, but there will be people who have to work in an agile way in these new agile structures. And it's not that easy that people are transformed, within a blink of an eye from a classic way of working into an agile way of working. And how you should approach it and how you should do it is that you should do it via competencies. You should have to look into these new positions, into this desired organization from this competency point of view, which means that you have to evaluate your own people before selection. And yeah, you have to find the best people, at least for those positions that are very important or highlighted. According to my experiences, product owner positions, chapter lead positions, needless to say, tribe lead positions are utmost important. Squad members are also important, but all the other positions are really highlighted. A lot depends on them. So, people will be the same, because an agile transformation works with the same people you worked with yesterday in a classic organization. But yes, you have to select, you have to assess your people and find the best product owners, chapter leads, because they are very important. They will be the so-called milestones. They will be seen as exemplary role models by other people. However, these positions also differ from each other. So try to assess, evaluate, and put these things into your decision and start the development of your people, because this can be the difference between a successful transformation or a failure in this transformation. So, Agile implementation. What we have found is that Agile transformations are usually started and of course maintained by very important leaders, very important people in very important positions. As a leader, what we have found is that you should, consider these, let's say, so 5 roles in your position. If you are churning on this idea, if you are spinning on this idea, and of course, if you decided to go this way, the Agile way. So Agile implementation, according to our experiences, is that you have to accept that transforming your company or organization into an Agile organization is like walking on a very narrow line. It is because you have to keep and you have to change. You have to preserve and you have to alter. Because you have to keep certain parts of the previous system instead of pushing through Agile everywhere on every front. And yes, in the same time, you have to start working with this. So this is a narrow line between full Agile or zero Agile. You have to find this way. You have to set the right pace. Full throttle or zero are both unsuccessful ways according to our experiences. The second, let's say, rule you should consider is that, you have to adjust the elements of the Agile methodology systematically in an optimal way to the present organization's culture. It is heavily connected to the first rule, let's say so. Again, what we have seen is that a step-by-step process where you give time to the organization and, of course, to your people is much more successful than any other way. So do it in a systematical, step-by-step way, and of course adjust. Just like going back to the first slide in my presentation, you have to tailor-made it. Even the technical part, even the ability, you have to adjust those elements that will make the company agile. The third one is to demonstrate the transformation's importance or significance for the organization. You have to create some stories. You have to show it to everybody. You have to talk about it because when people simply doesn't know anything about this or they have doubts, and yes, they will have some doubts, you have to convince them. And it can be done via a demonstration. You have to show it by numbers, you have to show it with charts, you have to talk about it and convince your people. So after this, point 4 should not be a new something. You have to engage team members proactively, not just about the whole concept, but in the design of the new operational model, because they will be the ones who will be participating in it on a daily basis. I would say it's important to engage them during the design phases as well. If they can talk, if they can, resist a bit, resistance is part of every change, then the new model will be a much better model and will be a used model instead of, a model everybody hates. And number 5 is connected to our second factor. Absolutely, purely, you have to evolve the appropriate hard and soft competencies and attitudes. Yes, you have to teach the necessary technical skills and technical parts to your people, how it is done every day, but you have to also focus on soft competencies. Those competencies that are about the how. The hard competencies are always about what they have to do. And the soft competencies is how they can do it every day. So we are talking about competencies like result orientation, creativity, conflict management, for example. Needless to say, you have to, gather those that are important for you, that are important for those given positions. So it's not just, picking certain competencies from a huge list. You have to do it in a very, professional way, but you have to evolve these soft competencies because according to our experiences, they are not, 100% present in classic organizations. Just to give you one example, huge multinational companies usually reward people who have high prudence. It means, rule-following attitude, It means a systematical approach. We usually reward them because they are playing according to our rules. They are giving huge importance to, quality products, etc. However, what Agile says is that you have to be flexible. And as you can see, this systematical, perfectionistic way of working is, well, how to say it, against those flexible needs of an agile company or agile way of working. So you have to evolve, you have to train your people after assessing them and their competencies, because you can expect that a huge change is needed. And however you can change, those hard technical parts, maybe not from one day to another, but the hard transformation can run down within weeks and months. What we have seen is that the soft transformation of people is absolutely not just like, on the next morning I wake up with different skills. They have to get used to this. And yeah, I was talking about, this point 5, you have to evolve, you have to train, and you have to develop those famous soft competencies next to the hard ones, and the attitudes as well. So focus on your people. I would say this is the first learning point, number 1, that is the most important. Without agile people, without agile mindset, every agile transformation will end up in an empty shell of a seemingly agile model. So, people-driven agile strategy, and yeah, why we are talking about this? As you can see from this funny, picture, we really believe that, and we have seen it, that every agile transformation works or relies on the same people, because it's not like you dismiss everybody one day and get new people on the second day, a totally new masses of people. Of course, you have to work with the same people. However, many other things around them will change. There will be new targets, there will be new principles, there will be new demands, new processes, new routines, new frameworks. Basically, everything will change. Just think about the Agile Manifesto, how it transfers, well-known things from a normal, way of functioning into the Agile way of functioning. But in the same time, however these things will change, people will be the same. And yes, you have to, again, pay attention that they have to change, but for that, you will need some time, and they will need some help, a systematical help in terms of their soft competencies. And yeah, according to our approach, we always do it at least on 2 different levels. It's important to talk about those highlighted people. Usually they are the leaders of the new agile company or this agile strategy. So we have to approach leadership, and then we have to approach basically everybody else. Both of them are, of course, needless to say, important, but because leaders can give, engagement, motivation as well, and they will be the ones who can sell in this new role. Let's focus on them first. And here you can see those differences between a classic manager, let's say so, and an agile leader, because there is a change on leadership level as well. So according to the case studies of the past, a classic manager can produce great performance if he or she is calm and self-controlled, if he or she is energetic and result-driven, humble and cooperative, in the same time somewhat structured and somewhat risk-tolerant, so it's a balanced something. And, well, they can be analytical, they can be practical. Sometimes it does matter, in many cases it doesn't matter. Both of them can do the job and can have great performance. However, if you like to transfer or see the differences between this classic manager and the agile leader, you can see that 3 out of 5 points, the classic or the ideal profile changes. So first of all, in an agile leadership position, we need sensible and passionate people. In every case, we have worked with someone. This passionate as a competency was always part of the new competency model. You have to bring those, emotions and feelings into your work. That's how you can do it in an agile way. Of course, it will give you this sense of urgency. It will give you an awareness about what the hell is happening around you. However, maybe these people will lose some stress tolerance, but on the other side, what they can gain with this sensible and passionate approach is much more important than the loss of this stress tolerance. In the same time, yeah, they have to be still energetic and result-driven. So that's I would say trivial, and you need no change. The same is true for humbleness and cooperativeness, as you can, see it in many articles. Cooperation and the people focus are also important in this agile way of functioning. So it is something that have to be preserved. However, on the structured and risk tolerant side, there is a change because agile leaders should be flexible and adaptive. So the structured something are not that important. Flexibility, adaptation, which means that you can adapt yourself to the changing needs of the market, etc. It is even more important. And yes, from this analytical or practical part, leaders have to shift into an analytical and creative way of functioning. Because, in an agile organization, you need ideas, you have to work with the ideas of others, you have to be analytical, you have to rely on numbers, data, and you have to be okay with the big picture and the long-term approach. So agile leaders, as you can see, are different from the classic managers. However, this transformation is, needless to say, possible. You can do it with the help of certain trainings and the change in mindset. But let's talk about leadership behaviors as well, not just about these big, characteristics or words and the differences. How these things end up at the end in behaviors. So you can link them together. But let's go through these behaviors. So these leaders in an agile position have to listen to others' feedback. Well, it is also connected to this sensible and passionate approach, because these people are more prone to feedback. They need more feedback. And yes, it is extremely important in these positions. They have to use positive emotions in common decision-making, also connected to this sensibility, needless to say. They have to energize with their working style, the environment. This is connected to this energetic and result-driven attitude. They have to enable team members to overcome challenges, again, with a positive attitude, with this energetic attitude. They have to give a lot of positive feedbacks and let people fail and learn sometimes. It is also interconnected, Negative feedbacks are important, but because in an agile functioning, it's okay to fail. You have to be ready to give positive feedbacks, even if the decision was not that optimal at the beginning. You have to be approachable for others. Well, very important, because, connectivity and cooperation is one of the most important things in an agile. You should not penalize mistakes. It is connected to the previous item. You have to dismiss what doesn't work, and you have to generate outstanding visions. But it's not just about those famous leaders in an agile organization, because there are those other famous roles. And well, we haven't depicted squad members here, but they will have their own different competencies as well. The essence is that you should focus on these people as well. You should break down their profile into these competencies as well. You can see, some examples on this slide. They are just examples. You have to, tailor-made it to your own company, to your own product owner position. And yes, there are sometimes smaller, sometimes bigger differences. However, some competencies can remain the same, which means that, for example, for a product owner, it is imperative to be customer focused, no matter what kind of organization we are talking right now. But again, the essence is that you have to focus on other positions as well. You have to expand this competency assessment to these positions as well, and go through them in a systematical way, just you did it with your leaders. So, our agile solution in a nutshell, or as a process. Because hard part is not our part. The second part of the second factor, which is about the competencies, which is about the soft part, usually starts with modeling agile competencies. You know what you would like to reach, you know what kind of positions you will have, how they can be translated into your own organization. So start with the modeling of these agile competencies. Then there is usually a competency mapping. You know, you have to assess people, you have to use some tools, which means that you have to map those competencies into those tools. Existing tools on the market, like, you know, personality assessments, competency assessments, does not work with agile, you know, keywords. This is why you need a competency mapping. But if you have the right tool, then it's not a big problem to map. For example, we are working with the Hogan questionnaires and some game-based assessments. You have to do this translation or transformation in order to measure those agile competencies that are, as you could see, different from the classic competency sets of your people. Then you have to agile this mindset and the competencies with certain tools. Then you will need some customized agile reports, because people have to understand the differences. So these reports are usually more narrative and have to give more understanding and background about these competencies, you know, compared to other classic reports where I would say it's not that important to talk about well-known competencies that is the same for everyone on the market. So after having those customized agile reports, you have to start developing your agile people. And then you have to track agile performance later, which can be done with certain well-known tools as well. What I would like to propose is a typical tool, a 360. Because yes, you have to track performance as hard performance through KPIs, but you also have to track this development, this agile competency set as well. And for example, a 360 is a great tool to connect with some KPIs, and then you will have the full picture about the successfulness of your agile transformation and performance. And then you will have access what you have to change, where you have to intervene into this process. And here we have some examples from our existing client pool. In our first example, as you can see, we would like to rely on an insurance case study. When we have mapped the client, they had some challenges. That's why they started to think about agile. First of all, they wanted to decrease the go-to-market lead time. In the same time, they wanted to place the customer in the focus of innovations and everything. They wanted to implement a more flexible organizational structure. Needless to say, all these items reflect agile way of functioning. So that was their idea, to implement the agile model and run through it with the help of certain, departments. They had some other challenges connected to the process as well that are translated into these questions, like who should take the lead in the transformation? What roles and responsibilities should be created? What are the newly merged competency capabilities to build? What those people should look like from the competency perspective? And yeah, how to measure these competencies? Do we need different tools, different approaches? Our answer was no, you should not use different measures. You just have to map. You have to elaborate the competencies, and yes, you have to map it and then simply measure it. People are the same. Now we are just hunting for different characteristics and different behaviors. So our solution was, number one, do this mapping for the new roles. Then assess leadership competencies, create some competency reports, some special competency reports for those highlighted positions, and find the best people for those positions based on the reports, and then also focus on the developmental areas and start with the development. So it was a customized data-driven selection process and development process with, needless to say, some recommendations we have delivered for the company. At the end, if you're curious about the actual to-dos and deliveries, we did a lot of assessments. We have created a lot of reports. We did a lot of feedbacks. And we also organized some team workshops for those team members in order to understand the differences and how they should work on themselves as well. What about the outcomes? I would say that with the help of this approach, there was a smooth and successful transformation into a scaled agile. Now they have the right people in the right positions, and they have boosted this mindset change within the organization because they have focused on the people as well. There are some nice agile HR results, like increasing the position number, decrease the time of hiring, because as you can see, it was not just about those departments who are, creating something for the market, for the customers. The agile transformation was done for the for the HR department as well. Yeah, now they have built-in tools for retaining the right people. It is done, and it will be done in this famous performance evaluation system as well. Let's see a different case study from another industry, maybe not so far from the insurance. So now we are talking about a player from the banking industry. In this case, you can see the challenges, which were partly similar to the previous case, but they have, grabbed them in a different way. First of all, at the time of this change, they were market leaders, but still they were aware that, future is coming and agile is done around them, even in small steps. So they decided to change, at least through certain departments. Of course, they wanted to eliminate silos. They wanted to create much better products, much faster. As they approached it for me in our very first meetings, they have said that, well, there is a discrepancy between marketing and IT. IT guys are blaming marketing or sales guys that they cannot tell them what they need. Salespeople always blamed IT that they cannot understand what they need. And then at the end, when the product was ready, then the deadline was far, far away. So they wanted to do something with this silo system, basically, and wanted to create a much better cooperation. And that's why they decided to go agile. So, of course, they had some questions, just like the previous client as well. Should they do an internal or external selection? How the new competency set could fit into the organization, into the existing competency model? Which solution should be used for selection development, and how to measure performance? In their case, we have approached them again with some assessments and some specialized reports for all these agile roles, and including squad members, of course. So there were mass assessments because squad members were also touched with these personalized reports, with unique competencies, and of course with some developmental tips. We did a lot of individual feedbacks for those important roles, tribe leaders, product owners, chapter leads, because they are the key people in an agile transformation. And yes, we did team workshops for squad members as well, to make them understand the differences in soft terms, in personality, not just, the technical things. Based on the aggregated results, the company selected some top 3 and bottom 3 areas to build up on during the transformation and to develop in the near future. And because they were very aware of this change and what will come, they have started in the same time with the performance evaluation system recreation as well, because they realized that they need different, behavioral indicators to map someone's behavior in an agile functioning. And in order to make people able to assess others and their performance, they have asked us to customize those anchors and items for this performance evaluation system. What were the outcomes? Yeah, they did a big step forward. They not yet finished. but as we can hear from them and from the news, 3 pilot departments are working successfully. So there's a smoother transformation, better understanding of the new roles, less tension, and better role acceptance and evaluation. Results are coming through according to the feedbacks. Yeah, but it's important to say that they haven't finished with that. Of course, they need some more time to run a much bigger final evaluation of everything. And the last case study is coming from the telecommunication industry. Here, again, about the challenges, they wanted to stay innovative on the market. Again, just like everybody else, they wanted to decrease go-to-market lead time. They wanted to stay in front of their competitors. And yes, they have approached Agile in a very, how to say it, ultimate and full-scale way, which means that they wanted to assess sponsors, tribe leaders, and other important positions. That's why we had the chance to measure, to assess not just those famous positions, but also the Agile sponsors, which was very, very important for us and was a model for us because what we believe in is that you have to have a strong commitment, not just in those departments will be transformed, but throughout the whole company. And that's why your sponsors, who are basically, the board members, are also working, thinking in an agile way. So what we did at the end is that we have assessed their management, we have assessed their tribe leads, and because they have found that there's a shortage of agile coaches on the market, we have also helped them selecting agile coaches from the existing workforce, which means that they have opened up this position for everybody, and we've convinced them to run ACDCs for agile coaches positions, because these positions are, very, how to say it, sophisticated, very difficult to grab. People have to, practice it every day, and they have to, assess other people. They have to develop other people, which means a lot of energy, for example. And that's why we did assessment centers for them. The outcome was, I would say, quite nice. Everybody had a much better understanding again about these new roles. The agile coach position gained even more importance and fame within the organization. And yeah, because of that, they've decided to work with us in the future as well, to validate profiles, to do the performance measurement later. And they have a very nice model. They would like to assess the mindset, the performance, and the skills as well. So it seems that we can add all this data all together and see how, an ideal characteristics is or are created. And sooner or later, they would like to remeasure product owner and chapter lead positions as well.
Here you can find our contact information. Feel free to get in touch. And we would also like to send you a survey regarding this webinar, in which we would like to know how did you like it? What did you find beneficial about it? What do you think should have been done differently? And also to gather some intel regarding what kind of topics you might be interested in the future if it's not Agile. And in that email, we are also going to send in the answers to the remaining questions, so they don't go unanswered. And so I think we are spot on time right now. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope that all this information will somehow help you in your making decisions regarding whether you change to Agile organizational model or not. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch with the presentation material on the survey.